Hello there. Today I'm doing a somewhat self-indulgent video because I'm going to be taking a look at a computer that I might be the only person on the planet that cares about, because it is this. A great quality PC. Yeah, not exactly selling itself here, is it? Well, here's the thing. This computer is very special to me for two reasons. First, if I am remembering correctly, this exact model of computer was the first brand new desktop I ever owned. But secondly, and more importantly for me, this machine was also my first experience with Linux, because this is an OEM computer that shipped with Linspire. Now there's actually a third component to this that I didn't realize until I bought this brand new sealed example we're going to take a look at. And that's that this is actually a Fry's Electronics in-house brand computer that was mostly only sold there. So this computer was my first brand new desktop, my first experience with Linux, and came from a local system seller. So I am pretty darn excited to take a look at what is honestly just not the most exciting computer ever. Before we open the box, let me explain as much as I can about what this computer actually was. This is the great quality PC GQ3131 from 2005. This computer retailed for $270, as we can see on the original Fry's Electronics price tag here, but it was frequently on sale for as low as $159 and possibly even just $99. So this was most commonly known as the $159 computer. On the side of the box here, we can see the system specs for this machine, as well as the notice that if you need great quality support, you can get it at Fry's Electronics. This machine's CPU is an AMD Sempron 2400 Plus, has 128 megabytes of memory, and has motherboard. I think the motherboard in my original machine actually ended up in my old Windows 98 PC. We can see that it also comes with a mouse, keyboard, and speakers. It's a shame it didn't come with a monitor, but you probably still would have been using a CRT if you were using something this low end at this time. So to be slightly period accurate, I'm going to use a Dell 2001 FP, although I wouldn't be surprised if this monitor at this time was actually worth more than the whole computer was. And lastly on this sticker, we can see Linspire operating system and recovery CD for Linspire OS. Now, if you're not familiar with Linspire, it is a commercial Linux operating system targeted more towards Windows users as a transitional option that wouldn't feel as foreign. Now, in this video, I'm not going to cover the history of Linspire or get into any details about it because I've actually been avoiding learning as much about Linspire as I possibly can, because I was originally going to install this copy of Linspire on a computer and just have my initial first reactions as a video. But I was only doing that because I wanted to replicate this computer's experience for me, but now I can just have the computer. So I actually don't know a whole lot about Linspire at this point, and that's intentional. Now I've been a daily Linux user since about 2011, so I'm not going to feel uncomfortable with this setup, but I don't know the intricacies of Linspire itself, which I am very much looking forward to experiencing with this computer now. Well, that's about all of the backstory I can give you for this computer. It is a Fry's Electronics machine, but there's really not that much out there that mentions that. There are a couple of reviews from the time, but the original advertisements from Fry's weren't archived anywhere, and I can't really find a lot of information about it. So today we're going to be doing the most amount of documentation this machine has ever had, which is kind of funny. And this should be a pretty good example of it, because as I mentioned, I believe this is totally sealed. This is the original tape, and it's the only tape that's on there, and it is still intact. Now this one is a little water damaged, which I'm nervous about, but I'm hoping it's not too bad inside. But I think we're ready to open it up and see what it looks like. Now again, I appreciate the fact that this is not an exciting computer, but I used this chassis for about a decade. Here's a photo of me having Mad Maxed a fan onto the front of it and replaced what I know is a sticker here that has no USB ports behind it with some USB ports that I hot glued in place. This machine has a little place in my heart for its awfulness, and I'm really looking forward to experiencing this again. So let's get it open. Again, it's not the most exciting computer, but still, it's kind of crazy to just open something that's brand new, but still 2 decades old. That's probably the keyboard. I have a feeling those are the speakers. Here is the power cable. Everything's looking real good in here. And then I see the computer itself right there. There it is. It smells like a computer, not like mold, so I think we're okay for water damage. My gosh, look at it. It's perfect. I mean, it's brand new. It better be perfect, but it's perfect. And we got our Linspire and AMD Sempron stickers on there. Man, this is just so cool. Now, I kind of glossed over some of the features on the box, but this is a 52-speed CD-ROM drive only. That not being a DVD drive really shows you how cheap this machine was, because Blu-ray would come out like this year or the next year. So yeah, this was really a bargain basement PC. And then we have our 1.44 megabyte floppy drive. Now, at this point in my life, I was still using floppies, but I was always kind of messing around with old computers, so this was just normal to me. But I was using flash drives as well, which there is a noticeable absence of front USB ports on this computer. And that's because they're underneath this sticker. If I push on this, you can see that there is an opening back there, and there will be slots for USB ports there. This is just blocking where a more complete version of this computer would have had USB 2.0 ports. Going around back, we can see that every expense continued to be spared. We have the power supply fan here, and no fan there. I do wonder if there's a front fan. I don't remember, so that'll be interesting to see. But we don't have a rear-mounted exhaust fan, so that power supply has to pull all of the heat out through the machine. Then we have our PS2 mouse and keyboard, video, serial and parallel USB, Ethernet. That's actually kind of impressive on here, and our built-in audio. That's it. That is all you got with this computer. Well, aside from the peripherals. I actually have no memory of the peripherals at all. I mean, power cable, yeah, that one's easy. But the speakers, I'm guessing here? Let's take a look at this. Yeah, I don't remember these. The speakers probably aren't that great to begin with, and there's also the distinct possibility that the speakers were never put into service and instead made to go away so that the computer wouldn't be constantly making sound as I played games on it. But there are the speakers, and they are a pretty good match for the machine. Then we have the keyboard, which I'm going to guess this also has our motherboard manuals and stuff in it. Let's find out. There we go. Oh my gosh. Oh, score! That's okay. I'm excited here. First off, modem cable. Yes, let's look at the keyboard and then we'll look at that. So the keyboard is a box in a box. Okay. I see a sticker that says PS2, so it's not going to be a USB keyboard. Oh, there should be a mouse in here too, now that I think about it. And there we are. I know these aren't going to be good, but it's still so cool to see this kind of stuff just brand new. All right. Yeah, this is another thing I have no memory of. I wonder if they may have had like open box examples of these later that were sold without the peripherals, because Fry's Electronics would shamelessly retake things back in and then resell them at a discount. Sometimes if the product looked very new, the discount would be like 1% or something ridiculous like that. They were really stingy, but I would definitely see them selling this computer without the accessories if someone brought it back like that. I actually have a personal anecdote on just how bad they were about this kind of stuff. They were having a sale and there was an item that I wanted. It was like a hard drive or maybe a netbook or something like that. And I was trying to get a hold of it. I'd called the 2 stores that were here. The first store was completely out of stock because it was a sale item and they'd just run out. The second one though had one in stock. And they said that they would hold it aside for me. So I was excited. The only problem was that that was the one that was really far away. So it was about a 40-minute drive to get there. When I got there, I found out that the one that they were holding aside was actually a return item returned that same day that hadn't even been repriced and put back to the shelf. And they wanted full price for it. I did not buy it because that was ridiculous. That just goes to show you how much penny pinching they did. It was insane. But we still have the question of what is the keyboard like? Well, it's exactly what you'd think for a rubber dome keyboard from 2005. It is entirely serviceable and entirely forgettable. M309, M370 US, that appears to be all of the information I'm going to get out of it. I don't even see an OEM, just made in China. And one thing I read in one review on a forum was that this is, yes, indeed, a ball mouse. It's not like lasers were totally ubiquitous by this point, but still kind of funny to see. But now we have the quick reference guide and documentation. Oh my gosh. So here we have the motherboard manual, a 741GX M2. Here's our driver disk that I guarantee is completely useless on this computer because this is going to be full of Windows drivers that we cannot use. Oh man. Oh, that manual is actually familiar to me. I think I still have my original one somewhere. I have no idea where it's going to be, but that actually looks familiar. Interesting. Well, this is, there's our Linspire CD. Okay, so operating system recovery CD. I'm curious how that looks compared to this one. Okay, so this one is just operating system CD, and actually, that one is like screen printed onto the disc, whereas this one I'm pretty sure is a label that's stuck on there. So that's an interesting difference. Also, yeah, Marble Blast Gold for Linux, specifically for Linspire. I managed to find a copy of this. I think it might have been a demo or something. I'm not exactly sure. It does not run, and not because of a system incompatibility. I think it does some kind of online check or something that's really annoying. So yeah, that doesn't work and would need to be modified. Anyway, back to the actual computer here. We have our quick reference guide here. That all looks pretty accurate. So there's our CRT like I was mentioning. Oh, how cute. They think that we actually install our outlets correctly and that the ground pin is on the top. And then the great quality PC manual right on the first page here. Microsoft, MS-DOS, and Windows are registered trademarks. Also MMX, Pentium, Pentium 2, all this Intel stuff. None of that is in this computer. It's an AMD with Linux. I also see there June 2005. So that is when this is from. Again, Windows XP. Like what? Okay, so this is talking about your customer support options. Thank you for purchasing your GQ desktop, blah, 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 blah. Before you contact us, please make sure you have the following information ready. You need the product, model name, serial number, the operating system. You can find this information by clicking Start, right-click My Computer, and then click Properties. This is like Windows XP stuff. No, it's a Linux computer. Okay, I've been flipping through more pages in this after the first couple here, and it's all Windows. I'm wondering if they just assumed that you were going to install Windows on this machine because, is my system compatible with XP? This system comes pre-installed with Linspire 5.0. This system is also fully compatible with Windows XP as long as you have a correct and legitimate copy of XP. Windows XP was not very secure, and it was frequently attained alternatively. So I could definitely see this being the cheapest possible way to get a computer for a little while. But yeah, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting to see literally nothing about Linspire in this. So I'm almost wondering if it's even the correct and historically accurate way to represent this computer by actually running Linspire on it now. Doesn't matter though, because that's all I want it for. So let's get it hooked up now and see it running. All right, I got a space ready for us to try this thing out, but it occurred to me as I was prepping power that I need to look inside this thing before we try to turn it on, because this is from 2005, just a little bit after the cap plague era. So I need to make sure none of the caps in there have blown up. I would be a little surprised, but I've seen stranger things. So let's crack this thing open and take a look inside, which is going to be somewhat interesting either way. All right, there's a couple of screws on the side here to remove the side panel. That was really loose, actually. And there we are. Now, it was a thing that a lot of people commented on, that this came with one stick of RAM and that they would upgrade this to have, you know, more RAM. And I definitely see our free slot there. Cable management is, you know, they actually tried. For ribbon cables, that's not the worst I've ever seen. These caps also all look pretty darn good. The tops look a little puffy, but that's just because of the vent indentation. That's actually really good. I am highly optimistic about this thing. Those all look great. Power supply, though, could be a different thing. All right, I can somewhat see some capacitors in the power supply, and in my opinion, it should not be run. So let's go ahead and remove the power supply. They haven't ruptured yet, but they're not far off of it. Now, my general rule of thumb is that it's just not worth it to try and screw around with old power supplies, because they're, especially this era, they're just not reliable. So let's crack this open and see how bad it really is, but I don't anticipate putting this thing back in there, even if it looks fine. And yep, that's a big old nope there. Once again, a mid-2000s power supply leaking from the top of the cap. So that is the electrolytic fluid having dried out and expanded inside of there. You can see the other caps that haven't yet ruptured are bulging. That's the next step for those. So yeah, I saw that one. I didn't even see that one, and I was going to pull it from that. But yeah, that is very much do not power right there. There are literally zero redeeming qualities to this power supply. So we're just going to shove all of that aside, and I've got a modern one I will drop in for now. I will try to find a different power supply that I can leave in there long term. I don't really want to put this one in there forever, but this will work for now. All right, let's get the new power supply in there, and new is a term I'm using very loosely since it's clearly covered in dust. In case anyone finds it disappointing that I'm replacing the power supply and have zero intention of trying to repair the other one, you should really just treat old power supplies and computers from this era like tires on a car. They are completely consumable and unreliable after they have aged. There is zero reason, unless they're a novelty power supply, to try and repair them. And even then, it's not like that exciting of a prospect because they weren't that great to begin with. So this is just a straight upgrade. All right, I'm not gonna sweat my cable management too much here because this is not the long-term power supply for this thing. So the original power supply was 250 watts. This is 750. This thing is clearly overkill, and I would like to get something like a 500 watt power supply instead to just put in here and leave that in. So I'll probably order a new modular 500 watt for this, and then I can just have the Molex cables. It's one reason why it's still nice to be able to get modulars, is you can not have the SATA cables that don't exist and aren't needed in a machine of this era. So that'll work. I'm just gonna make sure that nothing is in the fan, and yeah. I think we're ready to set this up now. Glad I looked inside. I almost forgot to do that, because yeah, that's basically a problem on every computer from this era. And there we go, but I noticed there's a sticker on this side. I don't remember seeing that on mine. Dude, I kind of love this. That's pretty darn sweet. I wonder, it must peel off super wow, yeah, I don't even think it's fully on there. Just sticking it back on my finger there. Yeah, that is, that's cool. I'm really glad that that's on there. All right, it's now time to set up the computer. And you know that school assignment where you're supposed to write out the instructions for how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and the teacher intentionally follows it too literally? I think we should do something like that with these because they make some questionable choices here that are just gonna make life annoying. So let's follow the quick reference setup sheet here for how to get this machine up and running. Step number 1 is mouse and keyboard. That way we have the biggest peripherals that are gonna be connected attached to the computer, making it difficult to move around. Good choice. And there's actually 2 mouse and keyboard options here. But we were provided the PS2 keyboard and mouse, so that's what we will be using. All right, step number 3 is about connecting to the RJ45 network connector. I'm not going to connect the Linspire system to the internet or my local network. I'm not concerned about viruses or anything like that. I just know that it's not going to be easy to use because all of the security stuff is going to be ancient and not readily upgradable, so it's just asking for pain, and a weird old Linux distro like Linspire is probably not going to be that easy to set up for modern stuff. All right, next up, I'm not going to be connecting any serial devices yet. We're not going to connect a printer, but we can connect the external speakers. All right, I am genuinely curious if this is going to have like proper sound and video drivers. Those are kind of a pain to set up on Linux, and I don't know how well this is going to work. So I'm really curious about that. In general, I'm just curious how good of an out-of-the-box Linux setup this will be. All right, we're going to use our green audio output for the speakers, connecting the speakers to power, and they aren't actually labeled left, right, so we'll just assume power is right. Looking better. Next up, we connect the monitor. Like I mentioned, I'm going for a Dell 2001 FP here. This one actually has the speaker bar installed. Just gonna go ahead and remove that because we will not be utilizing that today. There's that powered, but this is gonna get a little more weird. I am going to attempt to do VGA capture of this machine today, so let me run this over to my capture repeater and then have that go back to the monitor. And now the final thing, power. Because, you know, why would we want it grounded during all that time when we're touching stuff? That would only be helpful. All right, it's ready for its first boot. Here we go. Oh, set this to VGA. Okay, this might be my video capture stuff. Give me one moment. Okay, there we go. All right, so it does work. All right. I think what happened is my VGA cable for the capture came loose. So if I do this, and then this, now we'll get video, yes. And I have capture, perfect. Okay, that's a really good sign, but I just realized something else that I should do before I try and boot this for the first time. So I'm actually gonna shut it off, and I'm gonna pull out the hard drive and image it. So I will be back in a moment. All right, the hard drive is imaged, and I realized also that it was complaining that the CR2032 was dead, so I thought I would go ahead and replace that. Normally I wouldn't bother to do this, and I will probably take this battery out after I'm done exploring this computer, but I don't want it constantly holding up boot while we're trying to work with the thing. All right, that should finally be all of the last couple of things. It's actually the next day that I'm filming this, but we have the original install setup backed up. I also replaced the CR2032 and the power supply is now repaired. So this should be clear to start up now. So let's see what the first boot Linspire experience is like. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and accept the default BIOS settings. That's definitely grub. Oh, man. Oh, this is cool. I am so excited. There we go. I figured it would have something pop up. According to this, it's running at 1400 by 1050. What kind of resolution is that? All right, well, the video capture is going to be wonky for a second, so we're going to go ahead and just shoot off screen until I can change it to something more sensible. Sound volume. Should I be hearing sound? Please move the slider until you hear music playing at a comfortable level. Oh, man, that's brave, Linspire, that you think sound's going to work out of the box. Yeah, there is no sound there. I had actually adjusted the volume level on the speakers before starting. And yeah, troubleshoot. Okay, it's literally just a bunch of words. Okay, sure. Okay, so apparently sound's not going to work out of the box. That's a classic Linux issue. Sound doesn't even work on my laptop still, so yeah. Am I going to create a user, or is it going to use a default one? All right, set password. We don't have to set a password. Interesting. Set display resolution. Okay, we're going to set password first. Did it just print the password to the screen? Maybe not. All right, set display resolution. What resolution does it think it's currently running at? 15-bit, never heard of that. It thinks we're running at 1920 by 1440. What? Let's go ahead and set that to 1024 by 768. Genuinely do not know how well, I presume Xrender will handle resolution switching here. Yeah, that seems pretty good, actually. Add users. Oh, I guess that was the root password I set. Let's not add a user. I want to see what that does. Rename, configure network settings. Yeah, we're going to leave all of that alone. All right. Next, the Linspire's Extra CD. If your computer Linspire package came with an additional supplemental CD called Linspire Extras, we would encourage you to install this CD. I didn't know that was a thing. I've never seen that before. Well, now I want that. Thanks a lot. Great. How do I find that? Oh.
Welcome to Linspire, the world's easiest desktop Linux.
Sound. Okay, this is going to take a long time. I want to change the screen resolution settings first. Here, I bet we can rerun that. Hopefully we can. I'm going to reboot it though, because we need to get the stuff fixed. I'm really happy right now. This is exciting for me. All right, I was wondering if the long boot was because it was the first boot, but no, this is taking forever on a full restart. So our user is just administrator, so we're probably logging in as root, which definitely feels wrong to do with a GUI. Now, 1024 by 768, I'm mostly picking as the resolution for video capture purposes. That should look pretty good on here. Well, that's sweet. Anyway, 1024 by 768 should capture well, but 1280 by 1024 is probably more what this was meant to be used with, because that was the resolution that most monitors or flat panels were targeting around this time. This one is 1600 by 1200, which would be very difficult to capture well on video. All right, we should be ready to check this thing out. I also set up audio capture so we can listen to that welcome intro to see what Linspire is all about. All right, how-to tutorials. Is that what it ran, probably? Yes.
Welcome to Linspire, the world's easiest desktop Linux. Over the last few years, thousands of businesses have discovered and enjoyed the power, stability, and cost savings of Linux for use on their servers. Now homes, schools, and businesses everywhere can enjoy these same benefits on their desktop and laptop computers. As you're about to discover, Linspire makes using Linux on your PC one click easy. Now we know you're anxious to start using your new computer, but before we take you to the Linspire desktop, we would like to quickly tell you about 3 very important things. First, Linspire includes several how-to tutorials to help you learn many of the features of this powerful operating system and to assist you in getting the most out of your Linspire computer. These tutorials use easy-to-follow examples, and many use audio narration, making learning your new system a snap. You're actually experiencing a how-to tutorial right now. Next, we want to briefly mention CNR or Click and Run. CNR allows you to install literally hundreds of programs to your Linspire computer with just one mouse click. CNR will also notify you of any updates to not just the operating system, but also for any software you have running on your computer. CNR is exclusive to Linspire, therefore it will most likely be a new concept to you, so we encourage you to watch the how-to tutorials about CNR to learn more. And finally, be sure to register your copy of Linspire, as this will provide you access to certain product updates and other free information, as well as allowing you to try out CNR. Registering is free, easy, and takes just a moment. Watch the how-to tutorial about registering Linspire to learn more. Since using the how-to tutorial...
I need to trim this somewhat because I was a giant nerd and having too much fun here and listened to about 15 minutes of narrated Linspire tutorials. There was a lot more that wasn't narrated that even I skipped through, so I don't have a complete recording of the how-to tutorial, but I might try and do that and upload it on my second channel or something later. But there is a section of the CNR tutorial that I want to play for you that's really important to understanding how software distribution worked for Linux at this time.
Let's start by introducing you to one technology that truly defines Linspire and sets it apart from every other operating system in the world. CNR, or Click and Run, is an amazing technology exclusive to Linspire that allows you to install hundreds of new software programs to your computer with literally one click of your mouse. Once connected to the internet, you simply browse through the CNR warehouse, containing nearly 2,000 software titles, all sorted by category and popularity. When you find something that sounds interesting, simply click on the program's name if you'd like to read more about that program. For example, this is the product page for a program called LSongs, which can be found in the CNR warehouse. On the product page, you'll find different tabs that you can click on to read a description of the program, view screenshots, read user reviews, and so on. To install a program, simply click on the CNR button. Just like that, the program will start installing on your computer. When you install software with CNR, it will always put the program in the correct place in your launch menu. And will also place an icon on your desktop if you desire. To run the program, just double-click on the icon. Uninstalling software is also one click easy, with CNR doing all the work of removing the software, all icons, and menu entries. Installing and running software has never been easier or more affordable.
I'm really glad that there is a walkthrough of CNR because that's something that we probably cannot experience here. So modern Linux distributions use this same concept. This is the software repository. This is how you get your software for your Linux computer. You can download source code and compile it yourself for your system, but realistically, nobody wants to do that. So instead, you use software repositories that provide software packages that are far easier for your system to install automatically. This is definitely that, but wrapped up in a way that is much more GUI friendly. So it's really cool to be able to see at least this small snippet of how this would work, because again, we're not going to be able to experience this. So now we have a rough idea of what Linspire actually is. So let's poke around and see what you get with the computer, because one of the reasons it took me until about 2011 to get around to using Linux consistently was internet access. And I'm curious what this machine is going to be like without internet, because I mean, it's 20 years later. Nothing that it knows how to communicate with still exists. So what it comes with out of the box is all this machine will realistically ever have. So here's hoping that it'll work. Now, I might actually be able to find old source projects from this time period and compile them for it, but that's probably going to be about the only way I'll be able to get new software onto here. So let's see what we've got. Yeah, so KPlayer, that is a media player, but I can tell you it's not really worth launching. L-Songs, one that they were showing there, is the more useful one. So I had just put in a CD to be able to test the speaker volume and audio capture, and it will play an audio CD. Now I'm gonna try and play an audio CD, but I'm gonna make its life a little difficult. I'm going to put the Tempest 2000 Windows 95 disc in here, which has CD audio tracks, but also a Windows data track, and I'm curious how it will handle that. In theory, Linux has been able to support Windows file systems for a long time, so I will not be surprised if this handles this cleanly, but I don't actually know how it's going to work. Wow, that was fast. Looks like it's having a bit of a think about how to handle the CD though. All right, CD-ROM drive. Okay, so it's definitely capable of reading Windows file system. That's awesome. You know, actually, it's possible that it mounted the file system and that messed up the ability to play the audio CD tracks. That might be what took out L-Songs. Having a difficult time there. Okay, let's see if Xkill exists. Or, well, it's going to let me do that. Now, if I remember correctly, this is going to be running at KDE. Oh, control escape brings up process table. Okay, well, and confirmation of KDE. Okay, perfect. Well, let's try and give it a different test. Another Linux distribution CD. Linux has its own ISO 9660 extension, which is called Rocky. And I'm curious how this will handle this. I'm going to guess it'll work just fine, but I've never actually put a Linux CD into a vintage Linux system, so, you know, just got to try the things. Microsoft Windows CD found. Linspire. No. Interesting though. CNR services many great popular alternatives to Windows-based software you may be using. Oh my gosh, that is brutal. You put in your copy of a program you bought for Windows and it just tells you, no, go get the Linux one. Wine existed at this point. It could have at least tried. I don't know if it's installed. Let's see. Just look through the list of stuff here. OpenOffice. That's nice. Games. Tron. Huh? BitTorrent client. They know their audience. We get Kate or Emacs and a GUI version of Emacs. That's weird. Okay. ATI control. Well, now that's curious. I'm surprised that apparently this CD is authored with the, I don't know how it's pronounced, Joliet extension. That is the Windows one. Maybe it's just plain ISO 9660, but yeah, that's a bad job there. It probably could have browsed the files, but if it's not a Linux file system, then, you know, who cares? Did the ATI thing just not load? I assume that this AMD CPU with onboard video uses an ATI chip of some kind. All right, well, let's try Tron. Oh my gosh, no. Oh, it's just two-player Snake. Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that is the classic Tron game. I mean, it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's just a little less than I was expecting, hoping, I suppose. So we do have OpenOffice. We can open word processor here. So this would be our alternative to Microsoft Office. I'm curious what file formats it will support. And I have noticed that we have AOL Instant Messenger here. That's hilarious. I did not know that there was a native client for that. Wonder if it just opens a web browser. Nope, that's definitely a full native AIM program. That's kind of awesome. All right, let's get this out of here. That is not bad at all. Right away, I can tell we've got all of the major features that you would expect from a contemporary Office package. So again, 2005, this does look a little more like Office 97 maybe. Slightly behind, but that's not too bad. Export as PDF, that's pretty good. Save as, okay, let's see what file types we've got. I assume a .doc saved by this, if it even does that, would not be as compatible as you might like, but it does support it, as well as two different variations, as well as several different variations. Actually, this is quite impressive. So that supports basically all of the options. You'll notice that ODS does not exist here. It is an older, weirder one. All right. Well, I gotta say, I'm overall impressed so far here. So Linspire gets to benefit a lot from open source projects. So this is running Debian, and it has KDE. So those are two major open source things that you could have just gone and downloaded and installed yourself. CNR definitely seems to be a more consumer-focused feature. I'm pretty sure Debian would have had software repositories at this time, so you wouldn't have needed to use this, and you could probably even use the Debian repositories. Let's see. By the way, it's taken us until just now to even get to a console. Just like to point that out. This was very GUI focused. Is apt installed? It is not. Okay. I am not 100% sure what package format Debian would have used at this time. So we're running Linux 2.6, compiled in 2005. So yeah, I haven't even looked at what files this has come with. So I've seen some sample songs. You know what? Actually, configure desktop. They had a lot of variations of the Linspire stuff. Oh, that one's pretty good. Yeah, we'll rock that one. So running LSPCI on here, I guess that makes sense for why we don't have an ATI compatible video card, because it's made by SIS. So that would explain why the ATI control is doing nothing. Now, despite this having a very basic onboard card, I want to try running a game on it. We don't need Wine to do that, because there were Linux games. That's right, we're gonna run Tux Racer. We'll probably try this first, but there were actually real games that supported Linux as well. First though, for kicks, let's try Tux Racer. Now this is from 2001. This is a 3D title, so I don't know how well it'll run on here. It says it requires a 300 megahertz Pentium, graphics card that is 16 megabytes, so OpenGL compatible. That might be our problem here. And it needs 64 megabytes of RAM, 128 recommended. All right, so we have setup.sh here. So can we actions open terminal here? I don't know if I should run this directly from the CD or copy it to the system, but let's just try running it directly from here. I gotta say, I am still very amused at the fact that I'm running Linspire on the computer that it would have originally shipped with that I had all these years ago. This is very, very cool for me. I'm having a fantastic time. I know it's basically just, you know, a computer. This is its operating system, but I have wondered about this experience for so long, because my machine did have done to it what the manual assumed it would, and I believe it had Linspire on it for a total of 1 day before it was replaced with a copy of Windows XP. So this is not something I have ever had the opportunity to try. All right, now let's go ahead and try and install this again from the hard drive this time. Much snappier. There we go, that's better. Desktop items for KDE. All right, begin install. I have a very strong suspicion this will not run on this machine, but we'll find out. All right, type Tux Racer to start the program. User local games Tux Racer. Let's play. If you run this as root, the preferences will be stored in root home directory. Yeah, that's fine, sure. Okay. Is it gonna work? Oh my gosh. That looks kind of brutal. Oh, that's slow. Oh, let's do practice so there's no AI that it has to render. Oh, yeah, this is going to be bad. All right, keep in mind, this computer costs $159. This is asking a lot of it. But hey, it technically did run it. You know, I am impressed how well it actually handled that. It recovered very cleanly. That, as far as it not running well, it ran very well at not running well. Now I want to try this, and this is actually a title that I picked up as part of a lot of Linux games from the 90s and early 2000s, and I want to make a video all about that at some point. But this one is Theocracy, and does support Linux. Now, I'm picking this out because it is 2D, and is more likely to actually run on this machine. But in a future video, I want to find a computer, maybe this one with a GPU, that I can run 3D Linux games like that on and have a much better experience and show you what Linux gaming was like in the 90s. For now though, let's see if we can get this to work on this computer. Go ahead and get Tux Racer set aside and let's try out Theocracy. I forgot it was 2 CDs. This could make installing complicated, but we'll see how this goes. Maybe I will actually have to install from the CD. Let me check the manual to see if it has a recommended way to install it from Linux. Dude, I know Linux users are supposed to be able to figure stuff out, but like, come on. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else in here about its Linuxiness, so we'll see how this goes. And Linspire is already going, no, I don't want to play with this, but we'll see what happens here. So, what files we got on here? We have a folder just called Linux. Okay, maybe there's some more stuff in there. Readme.linux. Okay. All right. This game can use 15 or 16 bits per pixel screen only. We are currently set to 16. I have never heard of 15 bits per pixel before today. What the heck is with that? All right, the installer does not start, permission denied. Okay, so we do inst.linux. .linux is their script extension. Okay. I am guessing I should just run this from the CD. Probably the CD was mounted with no exec flag, thus you cannot run any programs from it. And they tell you to remount it. I'm pretty impressed here so far. I'm gonna guess I have to run this from the CD because it's gonna ask me to swap disks in the middle. So we'll just go ahead and try that. So, inst.linux. Theocracy installer for Linux. Okay. Where is my sound card? In the computer. I do not know. That's a good question. Is there a dev DSP? I have never ever thought about how Linux sound devices work. I have a feeling if it's asking that, this is not going to work. And I'm now wondering if it even expects you to be running a GUI at all. Wow, that's a lot of terminals. We do have a dev DSP. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and tell it yes. But we got a language selection. Okay, we'll do English, installing Theocracy real. I have no idea what .real is. Good luck. Start the game, please type Theocracy in the command line. Start fails, read me. Gosh. Theocracy? Well, it's not auto-completing, so that's not a great sign. CD, user, games, Theocracy. Unable to open sound device or resource busy. Yeah, that does not surprise me. Please insert Theocracy game disk. That was pretty common to have an install disk and a play disk, so hopefully that's it. Initializing? What are you initializing? Oh gosh, it's got audio tracks. It's gonna open L songs again. I was not expecting CD audio. That's interesting. That part might actually work. I suspect it's not gonna play sound though, since it couldn't open the device. Hey, oh my gosh, L songs, get out of here. No one asked for you. All right. That is hilarious to see that Ubisoft FMV. That is pod as far as I'm concerned. Okay. Can we full screen this? No, we cannot. Well, that's just more FMV. Yeah, so I'm guessing sound isn't working. Oh my gosh, how many FMVs do you need? There we go. Menu. All right. Tutorials, Chronicles, Prophecy. Let's just go ahead and play a tutorial since I know absolutely nothing about this game. Basic controls. In this part, you will learn how to select and move your units. You will become familiar with different views. Okay, sure. What year is this? I assume this is post Age of Empires, so it's probably going to be similar to that. Oh my gosh, it's an FMV for how to play. I was not expecting that. It's not every day I start up a game and don't actually know how to start the game. So there's a lot of words here, but the back of the box has a better blurb for what exactly you're doing. Theocracy has one goal. In 100 years' time, the Spanish will invade the Aztec lands. Forewarned by a vision from your priest, you must turn your small Aztec province into a force capable of repelling the Spanish invasion and changing the course of history. Via trade or conquest, the majority of the 41 other Central American provinces must be allied to you. Your strategy is your choice, but your time is running out. This actually sounds kind of interesting. I am one of those people who likes to turtle in an RTS, so this kind of sounds like my jam. Okay. Hey. Oh, this, yeah, that's, it's Age of Empires. Okay, yeah. Without a doubt. Wow, we start out with a lot of dudes. Okay, so you guys do that stuff. Okay. And you all, let's have you do trees. Now, how about whatever that is? Okay. And then you guys, you're gonna, oh my gosh, it's only like 4 people can work at a farm? Dude, there's so much stuff all over. We got, this is not a game that you just pick up and play. Okay, that's for sure. I bet there's like a map too, where, yeah, okay, because we have the 41 other people that we gotta like convince to join our side. So this is, yeah, this is a long play game. I suspect this is more like Age of Empires meets Civilization, where you're playing for a lot of turns. I mean, 100 years, I guess, is the goal, but I have no idea how to play. So I think we'll call it there, because probably need to experiment with that more rather than just fumble around, because it wasn't very obvious to begin with. I could try and go grab some random other Linux distros that I know come with software on them, but I think we've proven the point. It's just going to work. You know, it's kind of disappointing that Linux didn't take off during this time, because, I mean, all things considered, that was a pretty darn smooth out-of-the-box experience. I assume that the software installation thing would have worked like it said it would have, so you could have gotten new programs that way, which is ultimately the problem. The interoperability of things between this and a Windows computer would not be easy, and especially as Windows XP and then Vista and then 7 came along, it was not trivial. Even today, as a Linux user, I have difficulties with things like this video. I'm actually using Windows for VGA capture because I did not reinstall my VGA capture card drivers when I switched my capture computer over to Wayland, and there aren't drivers up to date enough for it yet for that. So not sure how I'm going to handle that. So this is still not the easiest thing to do now, but man, that was a pretty darn good experience. I am really happy I got to try Linspire on the computer that I got 20 years ago. This has been absolutely fantastic. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, I know that I will be bringing up old Linux again in the future, so you may want to subscribe. If you want to help support the channel, you can find me on Patreon. But for now, that's it, and I will see you next time.